This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is Andrew Bell, the CEO of Red Rock Resources. Hello, Andrew. Welcome back. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And you too, I hope.
Yes, very well. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much for your time today. So the company have released an update across all current developments, drill programs in 3 countries, and you said the company is in the unusual position of expecting drilling results from 6 targets in 3 countries over the coming weeks. So why do you say this is unusual? Is it because a lot could come very quickly?
Well, I suppose I was thinking because it was unusual for any company to be in the situation where so many different things are coming in at the same time. But for us, of course, it is also unusual. And I thought it was worthwhile drawing people's attention to that so that they would know what was coming up and know what to expect and have also, of course, what the people who may come in and buy shares, if they do, we want them certainly to be different from the people who've always held shares. So we can't assume the knowledge of everything we've done in the past. We have to keep on restating it, not to bore existing holders, but for anyone who's hearing for the first time.
Okay, so lots of results to come in. So let's just look at Congo then. I think the RNS said that raw results already received. Do you know how they are looking, or do you need to wait for the detailed analysis?
Of course, I've seen the raw numbers, but everything that goes to the lab goes with a coded number and sequence, comes back that way. So no one in the lab knows which hole it relates to or how deep it was. And we have to apply the key to it when we get it back and then interpret it in relation to the geology that we have already mapped or found through geochemistry or geophysics. So that process of interpretation has been taking place, and I have rather deliberately not asked not to be kept informed with it, because one doesn't want to be an insider more than one needs to be.
Okay, so you will know when we know, or a few minutes before maybe?
Yeah, a day before.
Okay, so looking at Kenya then.
Well, yeah, obviously I know a bit, yes.
Yeah. So Kenya, you're expecting results imminently. What will they help you do to further the project?
Some of these holes we drilled because they were within our resource envelope, as you might call it, and they were in areas of higher grade, or they were areas where we hadn't been able to assume continuity because the existing holes were too far apart. So we filled in some gaps. We tried to extend the envelope in 1 or 2 places, and we looked at 1 or 2 areas of good grade mineralization. And we began to look and will look further at areas where the mineralization appears to go to depth. So in other words, we filled in some of the gaps in one of the most important of our existing resource areas. So we do assume we're going to get some reasonable results from that. And so we'll announce that, but afterwards we'll have to do some interpretation and then come up with more information. So there'll be a couple of announcements there.
Okay. And then looking at Australia, you have an update on the IPO and, of course, the drilling there, do you as well?
Yes, we're drilling 3 targets. That's diamond drilling. The other 2 programs that were RC drilling, reverse circulation. And the first diamond drill results from the first area drilled are coming through. That's on the site of old mine workings from more than a century ago. The second prospect we're drilling at the moment, and that's over to the west. And then the third we hope to be doing after completing 6 holes, the second one. So we've got a sort of sequence there, but we are tending to send the results off fairly quickly after finishing a hole. So they will come in dribs and drabs. But for the first hole we drilled, for the first 6 holes on the first prospect, we should have them back quite quickly. I checked this morning, and we haven't got more results yet, just the first hole, but they'll be coming through, and that will be continuing over a few weeks during this first quarter. So I'd say Congo first, then Kenya, and then sporadically Australia.
Okay. Well, that was my next question. What do you expect first? But you've answered that already, so thank you. So just looking at Elephant Oil then, it's not something we've spoken about a lot before, but you said the listing is expected in quarter one, and this will be the first in a series of monetization value crystallization events. What are you anticipating here?
Well, I do remember that when we invested in this asset, in this company that had an onshore oil asset just on the borders of Nigeria in Benin, and a large one, a very prospective looking one. Lots of people said we'd done a bad deal, mocked us, thought it was wrong. And of course, those were bad times in the market. The market was low. But we did have an opinion from an oil expert that I know who'd looked at this with the view of getting a listed oil company in the UK involved. And she always told me, this is a great asset, hang on to it because it will come right. And that did seem to be the logic of what was happening in the neighborhood. There's now been passive seismic done over the area. The targets are immensely large. And that's quite exciting because we get a listing in the United States. And then there's another country in which there are licenses there that will be announced, I think, or should be announced. And maybe that'll happen at the time of the IPO or before. But I think that the value we're now putting on that investment is quite high relative to our market cap.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see when that comes to fruition.
We will,
okay.
Because when I ask what it's going to start trading at, I've given a broad range of expectations, like from 1x to 2x. So that's quite wide. But if they get any kind of success or people like for the further announcements they make, that can go quite a bit higher.
Okay. Now, the other thing I noticed in the RNS was you mentioned that there will be a focus on strengthening the battery metal presence. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? I mean, the batteries are going to be pretty big, I think. Maybe not, hopefully this year, but I think certainly in the future from all the people I talk to and the feeling that's coming. So how are Red Rock positioning in that space?
Yeah, well, there was a time when cars all had used platinum. And then because of security of supply issues and political stability issues, relying too much on one source, there was a switch over to palladium. And so you could out platinum. I think to some extent with these other battery metals that are used, like cobalt, manganese, nickel, to some extent you can out cobalt. You can get around it eventually. It's very difficult to see how you can get around lithium. So this is something where we always wanted to have a presence, but historically, of course, lithium supply has come from salars in South America, dried out salt lakes there. And so finding assets of sufficient quality and interest took time, but with a change in mining regulation in Zimbabwe, which is historically the biggest producer of lithium in Africa, and even when at the worst of their political and economic troubles, the gold wasn't doing very well there. They carried on producing quite a bit of lithium. So we know there's that, and we've got our hands on one or two assets there. And so that's the biggest producer. Where are the biggest resources of lithium in Africa? I don't know, but quite possibly Congo. So again, we're looking at prospects there. As you may have seen, people have been quite careful about investments in Zimbabwe. They're probably careful about investments everywhere in the sector at the moment. But the one area in which people have shown a willingness to get involved in Zimbabwe has been lithium. And there have been one or two substantial deals and one or two good performing companies there. So I'm quite happy that we've got really very cheaply a quite decent position in lithium there. And I think we're going to have to we're going to have to come up with more information on that as we get more precision. I mean, it's you need to get all the paperwork in place and everything, and some of the systems aren't as advanced as in other countries because they still do things longhand in some cases. Not everything is online, computerized, online mining cadastre. So we are waiting for some things there, but we do expect to come out with some announcements, yeah. And I think that's quite exciting. But I think we're good explorers, and that's another thing that we can explore.
Okay. Well, Andrew Bell, the CEO of Red Rock Resources, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.